Hey garden friends, well we got through the freeze. I do have some things that were severely damaged and a few things that you can see they took a little bit of a hit, but they are going to recover. So now today I've got to get all of the plants moved back out of the greenhouse because we're going on a little weekend trip and it's supposed to get to 80 degrees and they will cook in this greenhouse. So reverse of the previous video on putting things in here. And I'm going to take you around right now. I'm going to show you the things that did not make it. Some of them are not a surprise. Other ones did pleasantly surprise me. So let's get going real quick and I'll take you through a tour of the garden after the freeze of May. So today is May 12th. Yep, May 12th. And so that should be the last cold spell we have. We have been known to get some at the end of May, but that's more rare than getting them mid-May. And here's a question for you. Did you experience a late freeze? Or maybe some other garden blogger friends that are across the country, they have been experiencing nearly 90-degree temperatures, which is almost record-breaking. So while I was freezing, they were cooking. So the weather's just been crazy this year. Okay, let's go on our little tour of the garden. Actually, I think I'm going to start right here in the greenhouse. Here are the little geraniums that I said I was going to bring in, my seedlings, and they came through it fabulously, even though it got down into the 30s in this greenhouse. And they did fine. So did all of the petunias here. They're kind of in the dark because the ones above are shading them, but those did fantastically. Now, these are some celoseas, however it's pronounced. And they're looking like they, a little bit struggling. So those are iffy. I think they will recover just fine. And let's see, this pepper is, it's looking a little bit sad, but I think it's going to be just fine. So all along here, all of these did good. But this pepper looks just fine. So who knows? Who knows? Sunflowers. I'll have to look at this one. Is this another celosea? I have it written. Yeah, that's flamingo. And some other things. Let's see. Down here, some sweet peas. I usually start my sweet peas in the ground, and I'll show you some that are out there already or directly in the garden because they do better for me. Look at this tomato. Did fine in here. That did surprise me. We got pretty cold, and in here they did just fine. And there's a dahlia I started in a pot. I really need to pinch that back, so I'll do that at another time. So let's go on out and see what's out in the garden. Excuse my chickens, they're always making such a racket. Now this one I meant to take inside. This is a petunia that returned from last year. And then this was an ivy geranium. I don't know if that's gonna make it. It really took a hit out here. And sad to say, it just was an oversight on my part. I had so many things to move. Okay, down here, everything here did fine. The sempervivums and etc. The little daffodils I have left. Of course, the violas and the pansies. Now this rose, you can see how the leaves are kind of curling a little bit. And it just was a little bit too cold. And it looks like the buds got a little bit fried. We'll see how they pop out. I may just have to trim them off and wait for the next bloom. This tree I did have in the greenhouse, so it came through it okay. These are all hardy plants, so they did okay. The delphiniums, those are my dusky maidens. Delphiniums, they look a little shocked, but my other delphiniums did fine. And I think it's just they were so little. So here's my Orangiums I started from seed, and you see my shadow there. But here was the one experiment, even though I had it wrapped, and you saw me wrapping it. This tomato, it did great for 2 nights, and the 3rd night was just the end. And I will trim it back and see if it recovers. It's no big deal if it doesn't. I have another one, a spare. And I usually only grow one early girl in my garden for the early tomatoes. And I have some 4th of Julys this year, 4th of July tomatoes that are also supposed to bear early. So that won't be a great loss if it doesn't make it. So all these down here, these are my crazy daisies. I started from seed, and some purple rooster monarda there. So these all did fine. So that's a-okay. Those are tough. Some annuals or some plants like those are perennials, sorry, are pretty tough. Some down there is Sweet Williams. These are my some of my winter sowing containers here. And that's Sutton's apricot foxglove, and that is some, I'm trying to think of the stupid thing. And those are another flower I can't think of right now. This is some penstemon. And so that's the plants right here. Let's move on over to the garden to see how the petunias did. Now these are the wave petunias. They're a double that I had started indoors. And I had so many of them. So many sprouted. I didn't expect that. Germinated and grew. And I put them out here when it was so warm because they were just too many plants in my greenhouse. So I put them out here, and I did not anticipate them making it through the freeze, and they did. They do look a little stressed, so I'm hoping they will come out of that. Let's go across here to where the others are. But you see there's a lot of new growth coming from the base. So even if the tops, if I cut them back, some of them, so they can really get going again, I think they'll be fine. But I am pleasantly surprised. I thought for sure they would just be toast. So, and others, my Gara, it did great. And the rose campion, it's not open right now. Not rose campion, but red campion. But I just love that for an early bloomer. And look, remember, well, I don't know if you remember that. Anyways, there is an allium. All these right here, all these, I didn't plant these. These were moved here by gophers. They ate a lot of them and then moved others. So pleasant surprise. I just moved my pathway. Here's the border to over here. It was going through there, but I thought, oh, I'll just let those be and just move the path. So here's the tulips. So they're just about done. So I'm going to cut them back and then move this tub, and I'll plant something else in it at another time. Let's go to the other petunias to see how they fared. So here are the other petunias that I planted over here. I've had so many, I've just lined the pathways back here with them. And look, they're still got some blossoms on them, and they seem to be doing just fine. So everything else back there is doing good, except these are the native ferns, and they pop up everywhere. But look just how sad that thing is. They got zapped, and those things come back by themselves and spread, and I'm usually yanking them out. This rose, this is Olivia Austin, and look, it got beat up again. This is the second hard freeze after sprouting out that it's been hit with. So I will prune it up, and then it will recover. It is an own root. I always buy own root now because of our late freezes can kill off plants, and sometimes we can get an early freak hard freeze and they haven't gone dormant yet, and that can kill them back. But they will always come true and grow back if they are grown on their own root rather than grafted. So remember my rescue endless summer hydrangeas I got last year. I had shared how pitiful they were looking at from the garden center, and I potted them up, watered them, and they recovered beautifully. They were sprouting out, leafing out, so gorgeous. We had a freeze in April, hard freeze after, and so it froze them back, and then they were sprouting again, and now that new growth has gotten damaged with this freeze. But they will come back from the base. It'll just be a while before I get blooms, that's for sure. This hosta I had in the greenhouse, and now I put it out here so it wouldn't succumb to the heat. These are coming up from the ground, and you can see how they kind of got beat up with the freeze, but they're coming back. I'll show you another one that I had covered, and it came through just fine. So look at this one. This one looks like it did pretty good. This is Patriot. I got this at the garden center. This one was a Monrovia Patriot Hosta. And what I did, just to show you, is I took a regular empty pot and I had just popped it over the top like that during the night, and I would remove it during the day because the day temperatures would come up a little bit. and it seems to have fared just fine. It looks like this little tip right here got a little burned, but other than that, it's doing great. Here are some dianthus. It's just doing beautiful. And it looks like my kitties have been digging a hole there. They might have found a gopher tunnel or something. So anyways, this is my Snowball Viburnum, and it looks like it took a little bit of a beating too. But, you know, it was such a dramatic drop into the 20s that a lot of things that normally would come through one of our regular freezes really took a hit. A surprise for me. This Oriental Poppy. Look, the buds are just fine. The whole thing is doing gorgeous. Let me see, is that coming into focus for you? Anyways, it didn't even take any kind of, it didn't have any issues whatsoever. I don't know if it's because it's underneath the pear tree. It was a little protected. I just don't know, but it came through it like a champ. This is the one that I had bought at the dollar store. Not the plant, but the seeds, and I winter sowed them in one of my milk jug containers, and I think every one of them things germinated, and I had a ton of them. So far, all the ones that have bloomed have been orange. I really wanted some white and pink ones, but I was shocked. So you can grow dollar store seeds and get beautiful plants. One plant that I have been very impressed with so far and am loving is this Cat's Pajamas by Proven Winners Nepeta, or Nepeta as some people. It's just been a trooper and came right through that hard freeze, didn't even miss a beat, and it's blooming away. I can't wait till it fills in. I'm gonna have to find more of this. So here's an example of roses that were hit hard with the freeze. This was Love Song, and I think it's a Floribunda rose. And these were grafted varieties. I did see on Heirloom Roses that they do have these in own root, but I'm sure this one's dead. And if it comes back, it'd probably come back from the root and it won't be true. And that one may recover, but it's so badly damaged, whether or not it recovers worth anything, I don't know. So I'm gonna take that out, put it in a smaller pot and see what happens, and then plant something else here and or put something here, move the container. But I loved that rose. I'll have to put a picture up or a little short video clip of what it looked like last summer. And I'm really sad that it didn't make it through our weird weather. So here is my Bosco Bell David Austin rose, and it is maybe 10 feet, 10, 12, 15 feet from the Love Song rose. And look, no problem. This is why I had fallen in love with David Austin roses when I had moved here. And I had bought one at a big box store or something and loved it, and it survived so well. I'm just showing you my Tess roses. This is another David Austin rose. I have it climbing up this tutor or obelisk. And when I found how well they did for me, I just started collecting all that I could. So that's the ticket. A lot of people will say roses are so hard to grow. Not if you grow what thrives in your area, different circumstances. Now, even though I'm a zone 8, we have these late freezes. At zone 8 in Texas, they could probably grow the Love Song and have no problems. Or zone 8 up in the Pacific Northwest, Fishtail Garden, she has a bunch of beautiful roses, and she has no problem because they don't get those late hard freezes typically like we do. And so I have to adapt to my circumstances. This is Zephyrine Drone. It is, or Druin, I don't know how people pronounce it, but it does well here too. So a lot of vintage roses do well for me too. Down here is a David Austin rose that it has taken a real beating. This is Crown Princess Margaretta. You can see it broke right there, and it's bending over and out up here. I've got to tie that up to the post again. The heavy snow we had the last time, it pulled it down, and now I need to put it back up. You can see my Warsaw Nike clematis back there. It looks like it came through pretty good. I see a few curling leaves, but I think that will recover just fine. Another one of my Oriental Poppies. This one hasn't bloomed yet, so I'm not sure what color it is. So I can hope for a white or a pink or purplish, but I won't hold my breath. So columbine, this columbine is going to bloom pretty quick. It'll probably be open by the time we get back from our trip. So that, my friends, is the tour after the freeze. And next week, I should be able to start planting out my tomatoes in the garden, my peppers. I will direct sow sweet peas. I have some in the ground already. I need to pinch back. We are going to Filoli again. I just love that. I just posted a video where I'd taken a tour last March, and then now this is mid-May, so it should be a totally different scene. Roses are supposed to be blooming right now and other things. So I've got work to do to get my plants all ready to be cared for while I'm gone. And what are you up to today in the garden? Did you guys have some weird weather too? I know I asked that at the beginning, but please leave your answer in the comments below. I'd like to know if everyone around the country is really getting some weird weather for this time of year. So I hope to see you in the next video.